Assalamualaikum. Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to focus about stoichiometry calculation. What is stoichiometry? So stoichiometry is a method that can be used to calculate quantities specifically for the amount of products that can be produced or percentage yield. So the stoichiometry calculation also can predict how the dilution of elements and components in a standard solution. So I put here a mind map about stoichiometry. So it is a quantitative study of reactants and products in a chemical equation. So quantitative means that there is a value for stoichiometry and depends on the units itself. So if your condition, you got two types. The first one, if the reactant are reacted in exact stoichiometric proportion, you can accept that all reactants are completely reacted in a chemical reaction. However, if the reactants are not reacted in exact stoichiometric proportion, you can have two pathways here. The first one is one reactant is completely consumed, and another one is one reactant is not completely consumed. For example, I have A plus B produce my products. A and B can be limiting reactant and can be excess reactant because both reactants are not reacted in the exact stoichiometric proportion. So I hope you can understand the term limiting reactant and excess reactant because we are going to hear about this a lot during this stoichiometry calculation. So let's go to the first example. I have this equation. So you can see that 1 mole of CaCO3 here reacts with 2 moles of HCl to produce 1 mole of CaCl2 plus 1 mole of CO2 and 1 mole of H2O. That's why in stoichiometry calculation, it is very important for you to balance the equation first. And stoichiometry also can be used to calculate the species that we are interested during a reaction. It can be either this one, that one, or this one, whichever the question asks you for. So let's go to example 16, where I'm going to introduce to you how to do the stoichiometric calculation based on masses and moles. This question asks you about how many moles of HCl is needed to react with 0.5 moles of zinc. And next, you have to determine the mass of HCl. So there are two things that you need to find out. First thing first, how to do this question. Take out the information in terms of chemical equation. So you will have HCl, hydrochloric acid, reacts with zinc. To produce, your product is zinc chloride plus hydrogen. So I hope all of you can determine the chemical formula and the chemical equation based on the question given. Now, is this question balanced? Not yet. So you have to do something by adding 2 in front of HCl. So now, once it is balanced, you can take out the information given from the question. So you want to find out moles for HCl, and you got here is mole for zinc, 0.5 mole, and you also need to determine the mass of HCl. So these two things that you need to find out based on this example 16. So how to do the stoichiometry? Stoichiometry is based on a sentence. So you have to put from balance equation. There will be 2 lines. The first line talk about the coefficient from the equation. And the second line is based on information that you got. So when you do the 2 lines, you have to determine 2 stuff that you talk about. So you talk about HCl and zinc. So you are going to play with these 2 only. Now I have 1 mole zinc reacts with 2 mole HCl. And after that, I have 0.50 mole of zinc, the information from the question. And I want to find out X mole of HCl. So the first line here is from the equation. Make sure your equation is balanced. And the second line is the stoichiometry that I'm talking about. So how to determine the value for X? You just do the cross multiply. You will have 1.00 mole of HCl. Please mention what mole is this for. Next, you got the moles for HCl. Settle for the first thing that you need to find out. Let's go to the next thing. You have to determine the mass of HCl. So the mass of HCl is where you got the formula for the number of mole equals to mass over molar mass. So you are going to rearrange that formula, insert all those values. You will have the mass of HCl is 36.5 gram. So the triple line here means reacts with or produces. So it depends. If you talk about two different reactants, so you use reacts with. If you talk about reactant with product, so you can pronounce it as produce. One last tip, make sure you balance the equation first before answering any questions about stoichiometry. Let's try another example, example 17, where you have to determine moles of water will be formed when 0.25 mole of ethanol burns in oxygen. So this is the molecular formula for ethanol, and you have to calculate the mass of water produced. So don't be afraid, please write the chemical equation first. So you have ethanol burns in oxygen. So you put the chemical formula for them. Oxygen is O2. Produce, the product that form will be based on the combustion. So when you use oxygen to burn something, the most usual product will be carbon dioxide and water. So you have to balance this equation. Follow the acronyms MINHO. So metal first, so you got 2 carbon here, so 2 carbon. And after that, I'm going to continue with polyatomic ion, none of it. We continue with N, non-metal. There is no non-metal. And the next one, hydrogen, you have 6 hydrogen here. So you are going to put 3 here to get 6 as well. And after that, oxygen, you have 4 plus 3. And here you got 1 and 2 of them. So I'm going to put 3 here so that we got 7 oxygen atoms at the both sides. Now you got your balanced chemical equation. I'm going to continue with taking out the information. So you got the information given where you have to determine how many moles of water, and you got 0.25 moles for ethanol. And the next one, you need to find out the mass of water. This is how you take out the information. Now do the stoichiometry. The first requirement, don't forget to put the sentence from balanced equation. Now you choose 2 things that you talk about. We talk about ethanol with water. So how many moles for ethanol from balanced chemical equation? You got 1 mole of ethanol produced 3 mole of H2O. And after that, you got moles for this one, 0.25 mole. So I'm going to determine the moles for H2O. So the second line for stoichiometry. Now rearrange, cross multiply, you will have the value for X is 0.75 mole of H2O. Please mention who is this mole for. And next, once you got the mole, you have to determine the mass for water. So put the subject, mass of water equals to the mole that you obtain times with molar mass of water. You will have the mass for water is 13.50 gram. And don't forget, I repeat again, make sure you balance the equation first before answering any questions related to stoichiometry. So this is the stoichiometry pathways. When I use the term talk about 2 things, actually you got the given and you got the wanted. So for the given value from the question, you have to find the value that you wanted. and everything must go through moles. So that's it for this video. I hope you are clear how to use stoichiometric calculation based on mass and moles. Till the next video, bye!